AITA for leaving unannounced and telling my parents to enjoy their freeloading golden child? My name is Colton. I am 22 years old, and like many young people my age, I dream of making it in life. I have a passion for software engineering and am pursuing a degree in the field. In addition to my studies, I work part-time as a software developer and save most of what I earn to start my own company. That is why I still live with my parents. Since the university is close to their house, I save on transportation and other expenses, but I am not a moocher. Every month, I pay them $550 as my share of the rent and household expenses. My life was going pretty well, and I thought that in a few years, I would be close to achieving my dream. However, everything started to fall apart when my brother, who is 23, decided to move in with us along with his entire family. Don't get me wrong, I love my brother, but he has been a real problem since we were kids. Despite everything, he has always been my parents' favorite. From a young age, he had a talent for getting into complicated situations, whether it was breaking curfew, skipping class, or getting into fights at school. Trevor always found a way to cause chaos. However, despite all the mess, my parents always had a soft spot for him. No matter how bad things got, they forgave him quickly, while I wondered what I had to do to deserve the same unconditional support. He always found a way to avoid the consequences of his actions, and, somehow, everything ended up falling on me. Whether it was breaking something valuable or getting into trouble at school, I was always the one who had to fix the damage. Trevor got married when his girlfriend found out she was pregnant. Everything happened so fast. One day, he was talking about wild parties and nights out, and the next, he was moving in with his family and preparing to become a father. My parents were there for him every step of the way, supporting him emotionally and financially. They even helped him and his wife get settled into their own house, hoping that a fresh start would push him to take on his responsibilities. A year ago, Trevor and his family moved out, taking a generous sum from both our parents and his wife's family to start a business. And now, with his return, things have only gotten worse. Trevor claims his business is thriving. He boasts about securing contracts with large construction companies, acting as if he were some kind of mogul. He says he is just waiting for a payment of $2 million, exaggerating his success with every story. I found it hard to believe, given his history of irresponsibility, but my parents were quick to believe his story, listening with wide eyes as if he were giving a TED Talk. They sat there, nodding in admiration while he recounted his supposed exploits. Meanwhile, I watched from the background, feeling like a ghost in my own home. When Trevor announced he had sold his house to invest in a big contract, I nearly choked during dinner. And of course, once the money comes in, he plans to buy a mansion in the wealthiest suburb of New York, saying the whole family should move in with him. My parents are thrilled, talking about this great opportunity they knew Trevor would eventually land. They are over the moon, ready to follow him into this new chapter without realizing the potential traps that could lie ahead. Meanwhile, I wonder if this supposed success is just another one of Trevor's schemes, another chance to escape his responsibilities while dragging everyone else down with him. While Trevor waits for his windfall, he and his family contribute nothing to the household expenses. They don't pay rent, don't help with groceries, and have practically taken over the house. Their two children, whom I love because they are innocent and not responsible for the adults' actions, nevertheless add to the chaos. The house is always loud, messy, and a far cry from the peaceful environment I need to focus on my studies and work. I even remember walking into the living room one day, dodging toys scattered on the floor, and feeling like I was entering a war zone rather than my home. I used to cherish the quiet moments where I could sit and code, but now, those moments seem like a thing of the past. It is as if my sanctuary has been replaced by chaos and disorder. The worst part is that Trevor and his wife seem to think they can boss me around, asking me to run errands without ever offering to pay for anything. I feel like a live-in servant rather than a brother or even a son. They have invaded the kitchen, leaving their mess for me to clean up, and their children run everywhere, interrupting my attempts to concentrate. It is frustrating and exhausting to have to deal with their constant demands while I am striving to be a responsible and self-sufficient person. It might have been bearable until last week, when Mom came into my room. At first, she started talking about the increase in household expenses since Trevor and his family moved in. From utility bills to food, everything costs more. Deep down, I knew what she was going to say, but I didn't expect her to actually say it. She asked me to pay more than what I was already paying. When I asked her if she had asked Trevor the same thing and if he was going to start paying rent, she just got angry and left the room. The next day, during breakfast, Dad told me the same thing while getting up from the table, not giving me a chance to protest. I looked at my brother, who looked at me with embarrassment before continuing to eat. The following night, after work, I went directly to talk to Mom. I told her that I was barely earning enough and that I couldn't pay more than what I already was. Since then, Mom and Dad have stopped talking to me. They are giving me the silent treatment as if I were the freeloader or something. You know what hurts the most? Seeing how my parents treat Trevor compared to me. Trevor always gets away with it, and yet, they never hold him accountable for anything. Meanwhile, I pay my share, I work hard in college, and I save for my future, but none of that seems to count. I hate to say it, but sometimes I feel like all my efforts are invisible to them, as if no matter what I do, it is never enough in their eyes. I once thought that maybe I wasn't trying hard enough, that if I achieved more, they would eventually notice me. But now, after years of waiting for their approval, I realize it may never come. I try to talk to my parents, but every conversation ends with them changing the subject or ignoring me completely. They are so absorbed in Trevor's big plans and promises of large houses and a luxurious life that they don't see what is happening right in front of them. They don't see how much it hurts to be ignored, how difficult it is to work so hard and still feel inadequate. The worst part is that even though Trevor is older, he acts like I owe him something. He doesn't lift a finger to help around the house, leaving me to take on extra responsibilities without any recognition. I also thought about moving out, but it would cost even more, and right now, my financial situation doesn't allow for it. Update 1. Hi, it's Colton again. I wanted to give you an update since my last post, which received a lot of comments. Honestly, thank you for your support and suggestions. I really appreciate getting your perspectives, even those who disagreed with me. Many advised me to just move out, but to be honest, I'm not ready to take that step just yet. I'm still finishing my degree and putting money aside for my future. The idea of paying rent and all the bills on my own stresses me out because I wouldn't be able to cover everything. Now, not just the house, but my room has become a literal zoo. I can't even begin to explain how intrusive my brother's family has been. For example, the other day, I walked into my room and found a toddler bed set up in a corner. No warning, no request for permission, just a bed placed in my space. I understand that children need a place to sleep, but I didn't sign up to be a nanny or turn my room into a makeshift daycare. When I confronted Trevor about it, he just shrugged and said it was easier for everyone. Easier for whom? Certainly not for me. And it gets even worse. Yesterday, I found Trevor's wife going through my things. I walked in and caught her rummaging through my desk drawer. What is wrong with her? I felt violated, like they were invading my personal space. When I asked her what she was doing, she just smiled and said she was looking for a pen. A pen? Seriously? There is a whole house full of pens, including a desk downstairs, and she couldn't just ask me for one. It was insane, not to mention the weirdness of the situation. I didn't want to cause a huge fight over something that seemed trivial, but it felt like they were treating my space, my room, as if it were common ground. That evening, I tried to relax after a long day of classes and work, hoping for a little peace, but as soon as I sat down to study, the kids burst into my room, dragging their toys with them. I adore them, but I need to focus on my studies. I had to explain that my room was off limits, but it was like talking to a wall. They didn't understand, and Trevor didn't even bother to intervene. He just laughed as if it were no big deal. I was so frustrated that my brother wouldn't even set boundaries for his children. The final straw was when I heard Trevor talking to our parents. I thought I could trust them, but I heard him saying that I should be more supportive of the family during these difficult times. That's when I realized they had been talking about my savings behind my back. I have been saving diligently for my future project, and hearing him say that made me boil with rage. He had the audacity to suggest that I should give him my hard-earned savings because he didn't know why I was saving so much when I could contribute that money to the family. What? Seriously? When I confronted him about it, he looked at me like I was the selfish one. He argued that with the extra expenses related to their presence here, it was my duty to help. I couldn't believe it. I worked hard to save money for my future, and now he expects me to just give it to him because he made decisions that put him in trouble. It was incredibly unfair. I refused to let him guilt-trip me into giving up my dreams. At that moment, I realized I had to set clear boundaries. I am not responsible for his decisions or his financial problems. I have spent years focusing on my own path, and I am not going to let them sabotage my plans just because they think I owe them something. So, I took a deep breath and told Trevor that I couldn't help financially and that he had to respect my space and my privacy. I hope this leads to a better understanding, but it's hard to say if it will change anything. For now, I am standing my ground on my decisions and prioritizing my goals, even if it means dealing with more drama from my family. Thanks again for your support. I'll be back if the situation evolves and if I have more to tell about my brother and the rest of my family. Update 2. I wish I had better news, but things have gotten worse. And if you thought it was already complicated, it has now become unimaginable. After my last update, my parents' emotional pressure went from unbearable to absolutely intolerable. It was no longer just a matter of paying a little more here and there. Now they openly expect me to give them my savings. Apparently, the money my brother was supposed to receive still hasn't arrived, and every day he finds new ways to corner me into helping the family. My mother kept repeating like a mantra, "Family is family." Everything always revolved around Trevor. The constant emotional blackmail was exhausting. And then, the real bombshell dropped. A few days ago, my parents received a call from my brothers-in-laws. I was in my room, trying to ignore the usual noise of Trevor's kids, when I heard voices rising. At first, I couldn't make out much, but the conversation quickly escalated. My mother was pacing through the house, and she seemed, to put it mildly, devastated. I went downstairs to see what was happening, and that's when I learned the truth. The whole truth about my brother. It turns out Trevor had lost everything a long time ago. That big payment he said was supposed to bring him millions? It was a lie. In reality, he had invested all his money in a shady deal months ago and got completely scammed. The whole story about a pending payment was just a fabrication. But that's not all. He had been living with his in-laws for months, taking advantage of them. When they finally had enough, they kicked him and his family out. That's when he showed up at our place, telling even more lies about his alleged success. I couldn't believe it. Part of me had always suspected his big business plan was too good to be true, but I never thought he would go that far. Trevor had literally moved into our house because he had nowhere else to go, and instead of owning up to it, he kept lying, dragging everyone, including me, into his mess. I thought my parents would be furious upon learning the truth. I expected a confrontation, maybe even for them to finally see through all of Trevor's excuses. But instead, they were devastated in a way I didn't expect. Instead of holding Trevor accountable for his actions, they turned to me. Suddenly, the conversation wasn't about how Trevor had messed everything up, but about the fact that I had to step in to save the family. My father sat me down after that call and told me clearly, "Your brother is in trouble, Colton. This is the time for you to step up and help. You've been saving for years, and it's your turn to give back to the family. You can always start your company later, but your brother needs this money now." Just like that. It's heartbreaking. I am stuck in this impossible situation where, no matter what I do, I am the villain of the story. If I give them my savings, everything I've worked for will be lost, and I'll have to start from scratch. But if I refuse, my parents will see me as selfish, heartless, and ungrateful. And let's be honest, even if I gave that money to Trevor, it wouldn't solve anything. He has proven time and again that he doesn't know how to manage his finances. Deep down, I know that giving him my savings won't help him get back on his feet. It would just be a temporary band-aid on a much deeper problem. So here I am, stuck between a rock and a hard place, wondering what I'm supposed to do. My parents keep putting pressure on me, and Trevor continues to act like he's done nothing wrong. Either way, I don't think this will be my last update. Far from it. Update 3. Today, I am finally leaving my parents' house. No matter what happens next, this might be my last update. I don't know, but I needed to get everything out. As everyone knows, my brother and honestly, my whole family have been horrible to me, and I've had enough. Mom and Dad haven't just forgiven Trevor and continued to let him stay at the house, but they have also continued to pressure me to pay more and give up my savings for my older brother, who supposedly always looked out for me. What do they even mean by that? One thing is for sure, they will never change, or C reason. Trevor says he is finally taking life seriously and is ready to take on responsibilities. According to him, he has a new business idea with a friend and just needs a small investment that he will pay back as soon as the business takes off. The only thing that should take off is his lazy butt from the couch, and he should go get a job. I don't understand how my parents always fall for it. He might be their golden child, but to me, he's just a selfish person who only cares about himself. So, unable to stand this absurdity any longer, I decided to leave and move out. And what's more, I'm going to keep it a secret for now. I feel like if I told my family right away, they would do everything they could to stop me. I looked for studios and apartments for rent, but none fit my budget. Honestly, I need something I can afford with bills and food, while still saving for my business project. Yesterday, some good news finally arrived. A friend of a friend was looking for an affordable apartment to rent. I thought if he agreed to be my roommate, we could afford a small place and even share bills and grocery expenses. This morning, we finally met and discussed everything. The good news is that he had already found a place and was just looking for a roommate. The place is a bit of a commute from the university, but it doesn't matter. The peace and quiet will be worth it. The emotional torment and manipulation I endured in my own home will no longer be there. Tonight, I am moving out in secret. I can't wait to see their faces when they find out I'm gone. I hope everything goes well. Wish me luck, everyone. Update 4. So here is the promised update on what happened after my secret departure. Get ready, because if you are on my side, you are going to be furious. To summarize, after weeks of putting up with the madness at home, I decided to leave in secret. It wasn't an impulsive decision, not at all. I had been quietly looking for a place for a while, making sure it was affordable and fit my work and university schedule. After a lot of effort, I found the perfect place through a friend of a friend who was looking for a roommate. I didn't tell my family about this. I knew that if I even mentioned my plan, I would be bombarded with emotional manipulation and dramatic scenes. So, I set everything up quietly, making sure my departure went unnoticed. I started packing little by little, hiding my things in the trunk of my car, waiting for the day I could leave without a confrontation. I wanted to leave, but I didn't want the inevitable drama that would follow if I announced it. The day finally arrived. I had everything I needed. I signed the lease and headed to my new place. It wasn't large or luxurious, but it was mine, and it was all I needed. The first night in my own space felt like a breath of fresh air after months of suffocation. The silence was magnificent. Over the next few days, I continued my life as usual, going to work and university as if nothing had changed. I knew it wouldn't be long before they noticed I was no longer there, but I had no intention of revealing my departure before it was absolutely necessary. Then, the inevitable happened. My mother called me one evening, complaining about some problems in the house and subtly sliding in a reminder about the rent increase I was supposed to pay. She asked me where I was and why I hadn't come home for the past few days. In fact, she didn't seem to care that I wasn't there. What worried her was that my money wasn't there. I could almost hear the expectation in her voice, the same old assumption that I would continue to carry that financial weight. And that's when I dropped the bomb. I calmly told her, I don't live there anymore. There was a silence on the other end of the line, so I added, enjoy the freeloaders. Now, the silence stretched for a moment before she exploded. She couldn't believe I had left without telling anyone. She went into a long tirade about how I was abandoning the family and leaving them in financial ruin. She asked me how I could be such an ungrateful and selfish son, especially after everything they had done for me. She made it very clear that they were counting on my money to keep the house afloat, and that now I had let them down when they needed me most. But it didn't affect me. I was done. Done with the emotional manipulation, done with the guilt tripping, and done with being the scapegoat. My mother tried to pressure me in every way possible, telling me that I had betrayed the family and that they didn't know how they were going to get by without my contribution. But I stood my ground. I reminded her that I had contributed much more than my share for far too long, and that it wasn't my fault if Trevor had ruined his life. The next few days were difficult for my family because I blocked them on every possible platform, even when they sent me messages from an unknown number to tell me I could at least continue paying rent. Yes, sure, as if I were going to pay 2 rents while I was struggling to pay 1, especially for a family that didn't really care about what I was doing or wasn't doing. Update 5. I'm back writing again because things have happened. If it had been something simple, I probably would have let it go, but everything that happened with my brother and my parents deserves an update. I don't know if many people are still reading my story, but I think this is by far the most interesting post I've written, or at least I think so, because I am not the protagonist of this part of the story. At least, not directly. My parents showed up at my door one evening, and, to make things even more dramatic, they did so in the rain. I don't know if they checked the weather before coming to see me to make their visit even more theatrical, or if they just got lucky, although I don't know if you can really call it luck, because what happened was pretty ugly. They were there, standing at my door, a bit soaked because they needed a place to stay, which seemed strange to me since they had a house, but I was wrong. I didn't ask any questions and simply told them they couldn't stay there. On top of everything we had been through, there was the small detail that my apartment was truly tiny, but that didn't bother them because they planned to take my room and make me sleep in the living room. My parents had a plan in mind that didn't fit my apartment, much less what I wanted, which was not to live with them under any circumstances. Before closing the door, I asked them why they weren't at home. What they told me was the most incredible thing in the world. My brother had kicked them out. According to their story, my mother had discovered that my sister-in-law was taking money from her, and honestly, I believe them, because I had already caught her rummaging through my room and her excuse of looking for a pen never seemed very credible. So, there was a confrontation, and they had until the end of the week to leave. But instead of leaving, my brother gave them tickets to a show. When they left, he changed the locks and locked them out. And the worst part is, the tickets were fake. They traveled all the way to the next town to attend the show, only to be humiliated at the entrance when they were told the tickets were counterfeit. When they got home, they tried to open the door with their keys, but they didn't work. They knocked on the door, but the only response they got from my brother was, "Better us than you," and he never answered them again. Even though they knocked on the door for an hour, my brother didn't let them in. This happened just before they came to my place. I asked them why they hadn't called the police, and my mother told me they planned to do so, but it was late and they wanted to rest. That's why they decided to come to my place. I repeated that they couldn't stay there, and that, in any case, they could use the money I had given them over the years to pay for a hotel for a few nights. They protested, but I told them, "I have a job and I paid my share at your place for a long time. My brother, who is unable to keep a job or manage his finances, lives at your place for free, and you expect more from me? It's time to demand something from him. Thanks for the visit." And I closed the door. I know some might think I'm the villain for leaving my parents outside, but there was nothing I could do for them. It's true that I didn't want them living with me, but even if I had wanted to, there was no room for 4 people. It's been a few days since all this happened, and whether they get their house back or not, I'll keep you posted. Update 6. A month later, my parents got the house back, but not in the state they left it. And I'm not just talking about the fact that my brother and his family are gone, but also the damage and destruction the house suffered. This is what happens when you let irresponsible people who pay nothing stay at your place. In addition to the things that were missing, there is also the damage. The walls are ruined, the upstairs bathroom flooded, which caused even more damage, and some windows are broken. The only good news, at least for my niece and nephew, is that Child Protective Services took them into care due to the obvious unsafe environment. One of the children was injured after falling down the stairs and broke an arm. Add to that the illegal lockout of my parents, and the situation for my brother and his wife isn't looking very good. I don't know what will happen from here on out, but that's where things stand for the moment. My parents refused to press charges against my brother because, according to what they told other people, not me, he did all this because he was going through a difficult time. I have no more words for my parents. I think they deserve this, and maybe a bit more too. Update 7. For those who were worried about my niece and nephew, this update is for you. They have been placed with my parents. Child Protective Services asked me if I wanted to or could take them in given that I am family, but I think you can already guess my answer. I think my parents should have pressed charges or at least filed a civil suit. At least my brother had a car in his name. With that, they could have recovered some of the costs for the damages. But my parents can forgive my brother for everything, even all of this, which is very different from the way they treat me, the black sheep of the family whom they have completely cut off. It's ironic, because if I remember correctly, it was the other way around. But that's the story my parents tell anyone who asks for news about me, although honestly, I don't think many people believe them, knowing it was my brother who caused all the destruction. And as for my brother, he is living in that same car. It's not like the chances of finding someone willing to let you live in their house are very high when you literally destroyed the last house you were allowed to stay in. Comment: I hope this story reminds you just how strong you truly are. You always deserve to be treated with respect, especially within your own family. Learning to set boundaries is not selfish. Instead, it is an act of profound personal respect. It is important to remember that you are not responsible for the consequences of choices made by other adults. Your kindness should be a source of light, not an open invitation for others to drain your energy. Sometimes, the bravest step toward healing is the one you take by walking out the door. You always have the right to choose your own peace over participating in chaos. Protecting your future and your mental health is not just an option. It is an absolute necessity. I hope you focus on building a life where you feel genuinely safe, seen, and valued. Please take good care of yourselves. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.